Welcome to the JumpStart IT Academy YouTube channel. I'm your host and also the founder of JumpStart IT Academy, Chris Johnson. I'm also the lead tech career coach at JumpStart IT Academy. And before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about JumpStart IT Academy. JumpStart IT Academy is a platform that I created to help new and existing tech professionals, new tech professionals or existing tech professionals to transition into the tech industry. I understand the tech industry can be very complex. JumpStart IT Academy is here to provide you courses, coaching, and also books to be able to help you understand the tech industry, navigate the tech industry, thrive in the tech industry so you won't be surviving in the tech industry. We already understand the tech industry is a lucrative industry. It's something I believe that you should consider. If you're watching this video, obviously you see that there's a lot of opportunity. And I want you to take it serious that you can be a part of the tech industry yourself. And if you have any doubts or myths, go to jumpstartitacademy.com. I offer a free course on the top 10 myths of the IT industry. It'll pretty much hit the nail on the head if you have some of those popular myths in your head and thinking that you can't fit in the technology, because you can. There's a lot of opportunity and I want you to be a part of it. Let's get started. How to become a software engineer, a complete guide. What is a software engineer? Let's get into it. What is a software engineer? Well, plainly, or in its ideal definition, a software engineer is a person who applies the principles of software engineering to design, develop, maintain, test, and evaluate computer software. Now, that can be a mouthful. So I want you to understand that they simply create and test software applications. That's what they do. They create the software applications and they test them. They test them to make sure there's no bugs in them. They test them to make sure that the end user is satisfied. They have use cases where they're viewing the application after they develop it just like the user would view it. So they go through all these different steps to verify and test the functionality of an application. Let's continue. What is a software engineer? Continued. A software engineer may specialize in various technology domains. For example, AI, artificial intelligence, gaming, business applications, self-driving cars. Now, I mentioned self-driving cars because if you look at AI, you look at gaming, you look at business apps, that's more focused on a specific technology. Self-driving cars is focused on a technology, but it's also focused on a specific industry, meaning those manufacturers who are developing self-driving cars. If a software engineer is going to be involved with that, then they would be following a niche of self-driving cars, which would be the automobile or transportation industry. Also, virtual reality, that's dealing just like AI, gaming, and business app is dealing with technology. So I sort of look at it as specializing in a technology or specializing in an industry or some innovative industry that has some innovative technology. So continuing, cloud computing, etc. Now, to be a software engineer, it requires sharp technical skills because they have to solve complex problems and they have to improve business operations. I like to continuously remind people who are listening to me or people who are interested in technology that business operations is the heart of the business. It's not the technology, meaning that if the business doesn't operate, even if you're dealing with a company that creates products and services. Now, the business needs to operate because it has manufacturing. Now, technology comes in to support the business operations. And what techies tend to forget in thinking that tech is so important, they neglect the business. And so I don't want you to think that the business isn't important, because if you get caught up in the technology industry, you might lose sight of the forest because the trees are in your way. Let's continue. What is the salary of a software engineer? According to Glassdoor.com, the median salary for a software engineer is $115,000. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty good money. Even in a situation right now where a lot of nations are facing inflation, nonetheless, if you were going from making 40 to 50, 115, that's not too bad. Continuing. What exactly do software engineers do? Let's find out. Many software engineers hold a bachelor's of science in computer science or software engineering. They differ from programmers in that programmers are valued for their tech skills, and software engineers are valued not only just for their tech skills, but also their education, meaning they have a conceptual understanding of system principles or programmatic principles that a programmer may not have, meaning that the programmer may not have the system understanding or the conceptual understanding of certain things or the principles of why things are done, but they'll be able to do them. And the software engineer can do both. He can build applications, plus he understands, basically the principles behind it. And that helps with integration, meaning that the software engineer will understand what other professionals are doing. They'll understand their part in it, and they'll be able to test to make sure that the programmers are doing their job effectively, or they finish their scope of work and there's no impact on the other parts or pieces, depending on how complex the project is. Continuing. What exactly do software engineers do? Continue. Many software engineers create, design, and test applications. Software engineers are valued for their tech skills, meaning they build software, and their education, meaning that they have as I was reiterating, I'm going to reiterate what I stated earlier, in that they have an understanding of engineering principles, unlike programmers. Popular programming languages that software engineers use: Python, JavaScript, Java, C#, C, C++, Go, R, and Swift, PHP, Dart, MATLAB, Perl, Ruby, Rust, and Scala, to name a few. Popular applications software engineers build: computer applications for businesses. It could be cloud applications, mobile apps, or web applications. Who do software engineers work with? Software engineers work with software developers and programmers, and also quality assurance specialists. Now, the term software developer or programmer or even software engineer, some are even programmers or software engineer. These terms are sometimes used to describe the same function or the same role. Meaning, because the programmers are the software engineers or software developers. They can tell the difference between each other, but us, other techs, maybe not be able to do that. We may look at them and say, "Oh, you're a programmer." That may be an insult to a software engineer because they understand the engineering principles behind what they're doing. But for us, we just look at them and we know you're the one that programs, and I don't understand the difference between a programmer or a software developer or a software engineer. I don't think, I've never had any software person get upset when I confuse them with a programmer. But a quality assurance specialist, that's essentially someone that is going to validate the code in terms of quality assurance, making sure that it's quality. This is the type of person that's going to make sure there's no major areas of function that are not working, that is not working. Responsibilities of software engineers: planning the process and approach to creating software. Before software is created, it has to be planned, because code can be complex, and if you don't have a plan, you really won't know what your destination is. Therefore, you can really go anywhere if you don't know where you're going. Because if you have a destination, there you are, you're already there. Meaning that a lot of money goes into paying for these resources. A lot of money goes into preparing these projects. There's usually a lot of people involved. So therefore, there needs to be a vision, there needs to be a budget, there needs to be a scope of work, and it needs to have a time frame to it, so that there's a beginning and an end and a testing period, and that we can validate to make sure the users are satisfied, and also the project sponsor who put up the money make sure the people who put up the money or the person who put up the money is satisfied with the work as well. Designing models that show the various parts of programs. So what another thing or responsibility of software engineers, they would design models or prototypes to show various parts of the program because it would be very difficult to show the entire program. So what they'll do is they'll just show functions of parts to prove that the whole would be able to operate or work or integrate with the other parts and function. Responsibilities of software engineers continued. They're responsible for testing software to identify and correct errors. This is where I was talking about errors in the terms of programming are called bugs. Now, the history behind it is that they had these, big machines and in order for it to work, I don't know if you remember floppy disks, that was a long time ago, but anyway, they had these large type of disks, I guess they were using, and the program wasn't working. And so a guy pulled it out and noticed there was a bug on there and he removed the bug and then the program started working. So that, according to computer or programming history, is how they came up with the term bug or debugging a program. Next, the responsibility of software engineers, working with a team of software developers and testers, meaning that the software engineer, since the software engineer understands the engineering principles, they would have a better understanding of how the whole functions. They would have a more holistic understanding in comparison to a software developer or a programmer, because they may not, the programmer or the software developer may not understand the principles, because with like a bachelor's of science degree in computer science, and then you have a guy who just understands programming languages, there's going to be a difference in that the software engineer should be of a higher quality of a resource in comparison to a programmer who just simply learned a program and knows how to write code. The best industries for software engineers. The best industries for software engineers is retail, healthcare. You can tell healthcare with the health scare that's going on, at least at this time. There's a lot of innovation that could take place. There's a lot of information that's required. People need to pull information. People need products to be able to analyze information. And so it looks like there's a lot of opportunity for software engineers in the area of healthcare. Research and development, with changes that are taking place in the world, there's a lot of innovation taking place. So software engineers could lend towards assisting with that. The best industry for software engineers continued. Business and IT services, meaning that just regular corporate businesses need software engineers for their internal applications. I know I've worked for several organizations throughout my career, and there might be proprietary or apps that are specific to operational functions in that particular organization, and it's managed internally. It may not be used externally, but sometimes what companies will do is, as soon as the software is up and running and functional, if it's innovative to the industry, what they'll do is they'll package it and sell it. So other businesses that are similar to theirs could benefit from it by improving their business operations. Silicon Valley, high tech, meaning like the Google, Facebook, Apple, companies like that. Another good industry, or the last industry I believe, is government and defense. So software engineers, I work for government, I work for defense, I've worked for both. I've worked for a lot of these different types of organizations, and in every one of them I've saw highly functioning, highly qualified software engineers. What do I do to become a software engineer? That's a very good question. What do I do to become a software engineer? Well, one, you need a degree. You need to get a degree. You don't have to get a degree. Like I said, there's software developers and there's programmers, and they learn languages by going to, like right here, boot camps, or they get tech certifications. But if you want to be a software engineer that understands the engineering aspect of it and you want long-term success, I would say either get a degree in the beginning or make it a point to go back and get a degree. And the Fast Track to IT, that's the course that I developed. I have I have a course, or the Fast Track IT program, I have a course in there called How to Fast Track Through College. And I show you how I was able to get a degree, a credit from accredited college in 6 months. And the reason I say this is because in the tech industry, we don't really need college degrees in certain fields. And in my particular field as a network engineer, I didn't really need a college degree. I went and got one because I wanted more opportunity long term in my career so that I can go into management or into an executive level position. But that's up to you. But to be a software engineer, I would recommend that either you get a degree in the beginning or put it in your tech career plan to go back and get a degree so that you can have more opportunities as you progress in your career, because your mindset right now may be, well, I'm just going to be a techie. I'm going to be a techie, but you may have life changes that cause you to want to go more into a management or a leadership role. Meaning if you don't have children and you're starting off and you're just thinking that you're always going to be like that, and then you say, well, I'm not going to have a family, and you end up with a family, then you may want to not have to be so aggressive with technology and just move towards managing technical resources or into project management or being some type of lead. We'll move forward and we're going to go more into that. Popular programming languages software engineers learn in degree programs, boot camps, or with certifications. Python, JavaScript, Java, C#, C, C++, Go, R, and Swift, PHP, Dart, MATLAB, Perl, Ruby, Rust, and Scala. That's a review right there. This helps the professional gain the tech knowledge required to begin competing in the tech industry as a software engineer. When am I considered a software engineer? Tech knowledge is not valuable until the knowledge is effectively, consistently, and verifiably applied. Afterwards, the professional will have gained tech skills. I don't want people to get this mixed up. And I'm going to put a video out to tell the difference between tech skills and tech knowledge. Now, if you have tech knowledge, that means that you have knowledge. You know something. But in tech is a knowledge economy because non-tech professionals learn tech knowledge to manage techies or technical skilled resources. But, and I'm going to slow it down a little bit so I don't go too fast, but tech knowledge is not tech skills. Tech skills is when that knowledge has been applied. So I define it like this. Tech skills is satisfactorily or functionally applied tech knowledge. So if you can functionally, meaning if you can read, like for example, this picture here, this book, Python. If you read that book, you can probably, let's say you read that book 20 times, you can communicate with someone who programs in Python. But you yourself, if you haven't created any programs in Python, you won't understand the lessons that are learned, the nuances, and the insights that can be gained in applying the knowledge. So you don't have any tech skills because you could not handle a project that required using that particular knowledge. So just keep that in mind. When am I considered a software engineer continued? You must take on projects, develop your tech skills, and build your portfolio to prepare to compete in the employment market for a job. A portfolio is typically course assignments, internship projects, or projects undertaken in the capacity of a freelancer. And this is basically someone who is a project-oriented worker that works on their own schedule, an independent, basically an independent contractor. I was an independent contractor for about 10 to 15 years of my career. Right after I left the military, I was quite comfortable. After I left the military, I was a senior engineer, so I didn't really have to have a permanent job to develop my tech skills. I had already applied them. And when I did expand and went from system engineering to network engineering, I did a lot of hands-on labs. So once I did go into an environment, it was easy for me to transition so I could continue being a consultant for that long period of time. So that's just an insight on what a freelancer is. When am I considered a software engineer continued? Software engineers typically display their work on platforms like GitLab or GitHub to showcase their talents to prospective employers. Meaning, if you got a degree, if you got a certification, or you went through some form of boot camp, then you would have already completed projects. And once you complete these projects, you can go to GitLab or GitHub, and you'll have to go ahead and research those to study the difference if you're going to go further into software engineering. But basically, you would put your projects out there so that potential employers could take a look at what you're doing, look at the complexity and the functionality, make sure it works and see what you have done with it. And then they will be able to determine if you would be a good fit for their particular environment or project that they're working on. What are popular certifications for a software engineer? A popular certification number one is Certified Software Engineer, or CSE. You can go ahead and check out iccp.org for details. They offer training materials, events, and conferences, exam guides, and sample exams. So go ahead and check it out. AWS Certified Associate is the popular certification number two. Check it out at aws.amazon.com for more details. Professional Software Developer is the popular certification number three. Check it out at computer.org for details. It's provided by IEEE Computer Society. What are the typical career paths for a software engineer? The typical career path for a software engineer is as follows: an individual contributor. An individual contributor, to me, I'm going to just describe it like this. An individual contributor is basically someone who's just a super brain. Usually this is someone, they put all their chips in for technology. I mean, these are super techies. These are people who, some of them don't intend on going into management or leadership. And you can be in a meeting with those guys or those gals, and I'm telling you, they will explain things to you from a perspective that you couldn't even imagine, because they know so much about what they're doing. And in fact, they have sharpened other interdisciplinary skills, meaning they have such a strong working knowledge of other general skills that these individuals, when they enter the room, people are very nice to them because they could impact both the project environment and the political environment. Just keep that in mind. The other tech career path would be a team leader or a manager. I know I went to the level of team leader, and I've had management and leadership responsibilities without the titles and things of that nature. But mostly for my career, I stayed techie, even though I've done project management and a lot of other things like that. But for software engineer, team leader or manager is another career path. Independent contractor or advisor. This is someone that was in a role similar to myself for the first 15 years of my career, in that I was an independent contractor. I would just work on projects 6 months, a year, some 2 years, some 3 years, and then I would just move on to the other project. I've had a billionaire ask me to be his personal advisor for technology. I've had, jobs where I did 1099, and I would just go to the company, and it was just me talking to the CEO, talking to the vice president, figuring out what they needed and delivering it. Because at the independent contractor or / advisor level, you pretty much know what you're doing, and you're capable of taking care of a lot of responsibilities because you have very sharp and very functional and effective tech skills. Typical career path for a software engineer, the last one, startup engineer. Now, startup engineer, I want you to get the viewpoint of like Facebook when it first started, or think of Apple when it first started. That type of environment, it's vibrant, it's alive. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of opportunity. I mean, you may even have stock options involved. I know someone that I work with, he was given, I think, like 7 million in stock options, and the company was about to go public, and then it tanked. I think he lost everything. It just had no value because it was during the .com era, and right before they were about to go public, the bubble burst, and he went from millionaire, almost millionaire, to no millionaire, just like that. But a startup environment or startup engineer, I kind of like startup environments. Yeah, usually you're working in home environments or you're working in some small little suite. There's a lot of work to do. Usually in those environments, you're working a lot, but there's less political ties. There's less political drama and things of that nature. Usually people are so focused on the work and just so focused on getting the product or the service or building the company and getting the operations going and doing market tests and things of that nature, or dealing with venture capitalism and all that kind of stuff. So startup environments, in my opinion, are fun depending on what environment you're in or the people you're working with. But in my experience, they've been cool. 2 typical career paths for a software engineer: specialize in a technology or an industry. And I sort of hinted on this earlier, in that a person can specialize on a specific technology or they can specialize on a specific industry. Meaning that I know there are certain network engineers, all they did was spend their time in media and entertainment. They haven't done anything else besides that. They haven't gone in any other industries. Me, myself, I've been in defense, government, entertainment, media, banking. So I've been in financial. I've been in so many different industries that if somebody has a question about it, I probably have a general understanding, if not a specific response. The next typical career path is management, executive, and or leadership, or executive leadership. Now, this is where I was getting at. Like, when you start your career, you may say, "Oh, I'm just going to be a techie." But the reason you might want to consider a graduate degree or getting a degree is because when you start maturing in your career, you may want to shift your career path, and you just want to have that option available, even if you don't. That's what I did, and that's what I would recommend other people do. But go with whatever suits your goals and your objectives for your career. So we went over how to become a software engineer. I gave you the complete guide. We're now at the end, and I want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, like it. If you love it, like it, share it. If you love it, like it, subscribe. So like, share, subscribe. I want to thank you for watching again. And this is JumpStart IT Academy. Get skilled in IT over a college degree. And this is Chris Johnson, your host and the founder, the lead tech career coach. Remember, at JumpStart IT Academy, you can take our free course, The Top 10 Myths of the IT Industry. Go to jumpstartitacademy.com, and I will see you in the next video.